Imagine you are applying for a job and you see the words fireman, chairman, or policeman. Who came to your mind first? A man? If so, why? After all, women can be a firefighters, police officers, or company leaders too. Today, I want to discuss a statement. There is no sexism in the languages we speak. At first glance, this statement sounds reasonable. Language is just a tool for communication, right? Words don't have feelings, opinions, or prejudice. So, how can language be sexist? Well, I disagree with this statement. In this video, I will explain why sexism can exist in language by examining what sociolinguists and language researchers have discovered about the relationship between language, gender, and society. So let's start with a simple question. What is language? Most people would say that language is a system for sharing information. While that's true, sociolinguists argue that language does much more than that. Language and society are deeply connected. The way we speak often reflects the values, beliefs, and power relationship that exist around us. If language develops within society, and society contains inequalities, shouldn't we expect some traces of those inequalities to appear in language as well? This is exactly why researchers study the relationship between language and gender. One example is occupational titles. For many years, English commonly used words such as chairman, fireman, and policeman. Even if these terms were intended to include everyone, they still place the word man at the center. That's why many institutions now prefer alternatives such as chairperson, firefighter, and police officer. The change may seem small, but it reflects an important idea, that language influences who we imagine occupying certain social roles. This issue was explored by linguist Robin Lakoff in her book Language and Woman's Place. Lakoff argued that language often reflects the unequal social position of women. Consider forms of address. Men are generally called Mr., whether they are married or not. Women, however, have traditionally been divided into Miss or Mrs., depending on their marital status. Think about that for a moment. Why does society need to know whether a woman is married before addressing her, but not a man? This difference suggests that language can carry social assumptions about gender, and that's exactly the point. Language doesn't just describe society, but it can also reveal the values that society holds. Sexism in language isn't always obvious. Sometimes it appears through subtle patterns. For example, imagine a man and a woman displaying exactly the same behavior. Both are confident, both are direct, both take charge for a project. The man might be described as assertive, confident, or a strong leader. The woman, however, might be called bossy or aggressive. Notice how the behavior is identical, but the labels are different. According to Holmes and Wilson, language helps construct social identities. When these patterns are repeated over time, they reinforce expectations about how men and women should behave. This is one reason why discussions about language matter. Words are not just labels, but they carry social meanings. So, is there really no sexism in the languages we speak? The evidence suggests otherwise. Language reflects society, and societies have historically contained gender inequalities. Research shows that language can influence perception, shape mental representations, and reinforce stereotypes about gender. This doesn't mean that every speaker is sexist, nor does it mean that every word is harmful. What it does mean is that language is more powerful than we often realize. The words we choose help shape how we see the world and how we see one another. And becoming aware of that power is the first step toward creating a more inclusive communication.